Ohayou gozaimasu. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Better Than Food. I'm your host, Cliff Sargent. Hope you're doing well. Great to see you as always. Let's talk about a film. Look at this. A very generous fan and patron of the show sent me some green tea from Kyoto. I think he actually went on a trip and got it and then sent it to me. That's so cool. Thanks very much, John. I really appreciate it. So I'm going to try that instead of the coffee. Wow. Whoa. That is the real deal. It's like you think of like green tea and then there's like real green tea. It's like, whoa, you can taste that shit. It's almost like food. He also sent me this film today, which is Mikio Naruse's When a Woman Ascends the Stairs. It's tough to say, When a Woman Ascends the Stairs. This will contain spoilers. So this is a Japanese film directed by Mikio Naruse, released in 1960. This is one of the most beautiful films that is simultaneously outrageously depressing. So this 30-year-old woman, Keiko, nicknamed Mama, is a hostess at a bar in the Ginza district in Tokyo, and this world has become hell for her. She's also a widow. Her options are basically to get married, again, or start her own bar. Mama is played by Hideko Takamine, who is an incredible actress. There's an occasional voiceover where her inner thoughts are revealed, and that's where we discover the idea behind the title. The bar that she works at is above street level, so to get to work she has to ascend this flight of stairs. Philip Lopate wrote in a review of the film, "The stairs in the title are both literal and symbolic, conveying the idea that Keiko is on a Sisyphean vertical treadmill, trying to get somewhere in this life as a woman on her own." This is the first of Mikio Naruse I've seen and his last film. During his filmmaking career, he was respected but largely unknown, and made more than 80 films. That's insane. He was a director of working class dramas. There's definitely an Ingmar Bergman quality to his work, but even quieter. Takamine reflected on him being a very withdrawn director. Even though she appeared in 20 films by him, she said he never gave her acting instructions. Naruse's films concern the daily struggles of life in Japan, the sort of topics you'd find in soap operas. But to my understanding, Naruse specifically told many stories about Japanese women. It's about the struggle of being a woman in this environment at that time. It's between a rock and a hard place. This woman getting older in post-war Japan, working in this bar district. It's just brutal. A lot of the film takes place at night. I love films that are mostly nocturnal. The atmosphere with the smoky black and white cinematography and xylophone nighttime jazz lounge soundtrack is terrific. Very much for relaxing times. Make it Suntory time. It has this kind of Casablanca-esque flavor because of the bar setting. I love that film, by the way. I could watch that one over and over again. I think the first time I watched Casablanca, I didn't care for it, or I just didn't get it at all, and then I don't know, you get older and then all of a sudden you're like, this is the greatest fucking film ever made. Play it again, Sam. This is a film about being forced to compromise, you know? And like Lopate discusses, also a depiction of people as not good or bad, but realistically as they are. A strange and often tragic mix of the two. It's also about how insensitive financial matters can make people, how divorced from reality and real human feeling we can become. Simultaneously, it's a film about how fucking hard it must have been to be a woman working in the Ginza in the 1950s. It's an incredibly stressful environment. It's probably still extremely stressful to be a woman working in the Ginza, or anybody working in the Ginza. You know those boys, so they have like hostesses, you know, they're supposed to drink with the clientele, so I think there's an issue with alcohol, I've read on Wikipedia or something, but that's not the first time I've heard about that sort of thing, because I spent a little bit of time over in Tokyo, and, well, outside of Tokyo, but in Japan, and these host guys were fascinating to me. They would like keep women company in bars, and they have like this crazy like hairdos and these suits, and these young guys would just drink a shit ton, and then they would like throw up and then like go on to like the next client. There seems to be a history to this, and that's disturbing. It's an incredibly stressful environment. So much so that Keiko at one point gets drunk and then vomits blood, the effect of an ulcer that she has. Jealous of her friend who has opened up her own bar, after a while she realizes her friend or her coworker or somebody is deeply in debt. So this woman that she knew who went off and opened her own bar, she looks like she's doing so well, and Keiko's jealous of her, and then she meets up with her in this cafe, and she's like, I am completely in debt. So much so that she informs her she's going to fake her own suicide. But she doesn't fake her own suicide. She actually kills herself. So much of it is about money and the relentless pursuit of it to solve problems. That has not changed. So this woman is 30 and already afraid of losing her youth. Appearance is everything in the Ginza. Although, I mean, Takamine, she's not going to have any trouble. You know, that's the one, like, maybe unbelievable thing about the film. But appearance is everything in the Ginza, which I imagine is probably still the case. And, you know, this is maybe one of the first films that really made me empathize with what it's like, you know, just made me really consider, as a man, the stress for women of aging. Just in general, just the stress of losing your youthful looks. Because you can't do fucking anything about it. It's like just accepting the inevitable injuries or illness that are going to come with age, you know? With men, it's different. You can kind of, you have a lot to work with as you get older, you know? You can kind of like pull off like the silver fox thing. You can still get in shape if you get your shit together. But with women, it's kind of like you hit that high early. I mean, not always. There are always exceptions, of course. I mean, it's like, and I'm not saying that older women aren't beautiful. That is not my opinion whatsoever. But I am saying that it is a different struggle between the genders. And that's not something a lot of young men consider, I don't think. So it's a quiet depiction of inner grief from this lifestyle. Everything on the outside is kind of cheery and jubilant, working in this fancy lounge, having drinks with these businessmen, getting drunk, laughing at their jokes. The reality is much darker. Getting drunk all the time, being sick, forcing the smiles, fighting off the advances of these guys, sometimes winning, sometimes not, maybe the darkest part of the film, and fighting off the anxiety of being in debt and getting older. It's a depressing but beautiful meditation on life and the disappointments it brings, along with this quiet suffering that is never really alleviated. So, in the end, she settles for a marriage proposal by a fat but seemingly good-natured guy, only to discover through his real wife, who calls her, that he's a hopeless womanizer, completely deceptive. So what does she do after that? She drinks, because she works in a bar. So this is my favorite scene. When she gets shit-faced and the manager guy, who is secretly in love with her, is told to watch her because she's sort of harassing customers, he says, "What do you plan to do?" Her response is, "Drink till I die." And that isn't even the end. And even in the end, almost nothing changes. Except now she knows how bad things are, and she has to hide it. So brutal, yet a beautiful film. So true to life, too. Well, I mean, that's basically the end for so many people. Now I know how bad things are. Then you die. You just graduate to better problems. I mean, it's like, just choose your problems. There's always gonna be a trade-off, you know, so. Well, it's really almost a humorless film, not quite, and Lopate seems to find more humor in it than I do. I mean, there are some humorous, I don't even know, no, it's a pretty fucking dark movie. But it does bring up all the unbelievably stressful moments in life involving family, debt, and social standing that almost all of us, I think, can relate to. You know, mine is sort of an indebted generation that seems to be absolutely crippled with anxiety and destroyed hopes, dealing with all kinds of new issues of mental illness. And this film reaches across time and culture, allowing us to find ourselves in the place of Hideko's character, empathizing with the struggle to balance everything, to just try and get by, you know, to endure. And that's, I think, the real strength of the film, the power of the film. Life is fucking hard. Things do not work out. That's not always the case, but it often is. And we forget that. And I think in the middle of so much idealism or happiness or good luck, I wonder sometimes if we all think we're more durable than we actually are, or I certainly wonder that about myself. At the same time, there are some people who just cannot be destroyed. They just have this internal fire that just never stops burning, like they are just unstoppable. And yet, there's like others where it just takes like 2 or 3 incidents and just like you're down and you can't get back up. It's just crazy. It varies so strikingly. So I shouldn't say, you know, I shouldn't give any blanket statements, because there are people who just endure the most unbelievably harsh circumstances and have historically. I tell everybody that nature wants us dead. And being 30, you know, the same age as the character, I've never thought more about the past, worried about the future, worried in general, you know. And to the best of my knowledge, in some ways, it only gets worse, right? And while life isn't really like this film necessarily, filled with tragedy after tragedy, almost in a Germany Year Zero sort of way, which is a film that depicts basically just misery, it's a potent reminder of the darker moments of life, and those who don't make it through, and how ambiguous it all is. And seemingly, maddeningly, for a type A like myself, how dependent on one's luck it all seems. Lopate brought up Rossellini too, the director of Germany Year Zero, in his review on the Criterion. And I will link to that in the description box below. It's staged, you know, the acting is kind of strange and stilted. It's dated. And yet, through its pacing, its composition, through the masterfully expressive performance by Hideko Takamine, you're shown something deeply human, really rare. And we have insight into something complex that we'd never have otherwise. It's a simple film. I think the simplicity is deceptive because it's actually a very complex narrative. It has some real, what was it that Kurosawa said about him? Akira Kurosawa referred to Naruse's style of melodrama as like a great river with a calm surface and a raging current in its depths. Yeah, that's why films like this are so important. You know, we have this, because we can see into somebody's soul. We have a glimpse into somebody's soul from a completely different era that we will never know. It's one beautiful, bitter cinematic pill to swallow. Better than food, kind of. So who should watch it? Fans of Ozu, Mizoguchi, Kurosawa, Bergman, and I think probably folks who like Lars von Trier will get a lot of mileage out of this one. I'm not really a fan of Lars von Trier, respect, but if you enjoy older films with a meditative pace and stories of quiet melancholy, this one's for you. It's slow going, but definitely concerned with things worth thinking about. For some reason, I was reminded of Hiroshima Mon Amour. I think that one is even more depressing. That is a dark film. But if you're into bleak black and white films of the 50s and 60s, I don't think you can go wrong. So, time for the coffee lottery. The coffee lottery, for those of you who are new, is where I take all the names of the patrons on Patreon who have donated $5 or more to the show. I place their names in this mason jar, and whoever's name I pull out is sent a 1-month subscription to the new streaming Criterion channel, or a book of their choice, plus a bag of coffee roasted by yours truly. So, if you'd like to get in on that, you can head over to patreon.com/books are better than food and donate $5 or more per video, and I'd really appreciate it. $1 or more will get you access to the patron-only reviews. Thank you very much to all the patrons who have supported the show, and best of luck to you. All right, here we go. Paul! Thanks a bunch, Paul. Really appreciate it. All right, that's all I got for you today. Please subscribe if you haven't already for more book and film reviews. Please head over to Instagram, follow me, and DM me. Tell me what films or books you think are better than food. I always like to hear what people are reading or watching. Take care of yourselves, have a good night, and I'll talk to you soon. Ciao.